The mess hall smelled of reheated beans and nervous energy. 3 recruits had noticed her sitting quietly in the corner, shoulders tense, fingers gripping the edge of the table. They thought she was fragile. They thought she was easy. Within seconds, they decided to prove it. Before I tell you what happened next, tell me in the comments where you're rewatching from. I love knowing who's listening. Her name was Lieutenant Kara Viper N. She was new to this base, but not new to the world of danger, endurance, and precision. Her silence wasn't weakness, it was observation, a habit ingrained from years of training where one wrong move could cost lives. She had joined this mess hall for a simple reason: to eat, to rest, to exist somewhere in the shadows. She hadn't expected confrontation. The 3 young men closed in. One elbowed her chair with a sneer, while another blocked her exit. The tallest leaned in, voice low and mocking. "You're in the wrong place, little lady. Maybe you should stick to cleaning tables." Kara didn't flinch. She didn't even meet their gaze. Instead, she breathed, steadying herself, counting in her mind the exact seconds she'd need to react. 45 seconds. That was all it would take. 45 seconds to turn the tables, not with anger, but with mastery. The hall seemed to grow smaller, the murmurs of other soldiers fading into a tense hush. Dust motes shimmered in the sunlight cutting through the grimy windows. She could feel the heat of their overconfidence, the subtle sway of fear masked by bravado. She had faced worse, and yet the tension pulled at her nerves, not for herself, but because she knew that every eye in the room, every whispered comment, could escalate into chaos if she acted wrong. She remembered the last time she had been underestimated. It had been a field exercise with men twice her size, twice her age, twice her arrogance. She thought she'd never see him again, the one who had mocked her then. She was wrong. This moment here in the mess hall was a test in the same cruel pattern, but it would end differently. The tallest recruit reached forward, grabbing her by the shoulder. The movement was swift, confident, almost violent. His fingers dug in, and Kara's pulse ticked upward, not with fear, but anticipation. Her eyes lifted slowly, calm and deliberate, meeting his. There was no anger there, no reaction. Only calculation. The recruits laughed nervously. Confidence gave way to a tiny, uneasy doubt. She could sense it. He didn't know what they had stumbled into. They didn't know who they were cornering. Her hands moved before they could fully register her intent. In a blur, she sidestepped the first, using his own momentum to tilt him forward. He stumbled, arms flailing, and collided with the second recruit who had tried to block her path. Chaos rippled instantly. The third lunged, overconfident, thinking he could overpower her. Kara shifted her weight, pivoted, and swept his legs in a move so precise it felt almost effortless. The hall echoed with the sound of bodies hitting the floor, a collective gasp following it. Every fork clattered, every whisper caught. 45 seconds. Not a second more, not a second less. The recruits scrambled, eyes wide, the smirk wiped clean from their faces. Their perception of her had shattered in moments. They saw finally that she was more than just a quiet face in the corner. She was a seal. Kara stood, breathing steady now, body coiled with controlled energy. She wasn't angry. She wasn't seeking revenge. She was teaching a lesson won in discipline, respect, and the quiet, lethal strength that came from experience no classroom could provide. Whispers rose among the soldiers who had witnessed the encounter. Shock, awe, disbelief. Some clapped softly, the sound tentative but sincere. The room seemed to pulse with a newfound understanding. Strength could be silent, power could be subtle, and underestimated people often carry the fiercest fire. The tallest recruit, bruised in ego if not in body, finally met her gaze. His voice trembled. I didn't know." Kara's eyes softened ever so slightly. "You should never assume. Not about anyone." The lesson hung in the air, heavy but fair. No malice, no ridicule. Only the truth, delivered in a way that left an impression far deeper than any shouted warning ever could. The murmurs of the hall turned into nods, hesitant but real. Respect was earned silently in moments like this. The other soldiers now looked at her not with judgment, but with recognition of what she represented: mastery, courage, and the unwavering self-discipline that came from living in the crucible of extreme training and missions most could not imagine. Even the three who had cornered her shifted uneasily, a quiet understanding settling in that what they had underestimated was not just skill, it was experience. And perhaps the quietest kind of authority there was. Kara sat back down slowly, composed, almost serene. She picked up her tray and continued her meal. The tension melted, leaving a residue of awe and respect. No words were needed beyond what had just occurred. Her silence had spoken louder than any shout could. Because in that mess hall, in 45 seconds, a truth had been revealed. Courage isn't always loud. Power doesn't always roar. Sometimes the quietest soldier is the one who carries the weight of the fiercest storm. Because kindness doesn't vanish, it waits, and it finds its way back. And as she chewed her meal, calm and unbothered, she realized something poetic. The corner that had once been her vulnerability had become her proving ground. Every eye now recognized the strength she had always carried, waiting patiently for the moment it could be shown. If this story inspired you, leave a comment, share your thoughts, and subscribe to Whispered Words for more stories of courage, resilience, and the hidden heroes among us. Your next story is already waiting, and it might just change the way you see quiet strength.